Tonight on PhillyCAM Voices, we take a look at a plan to put more fruits and vegetables on the table of local families. How can urban farming help heal Black and brown communities in Philadelphia? Thousands march at the 4th Annual Women's March at the Art Museum. We hear the issues that are important to them. Plus, war. Women organized against rape. The group is now expanding its program to focus on men who are the victims of abuse. Good evening, and thank you for tuning into PhillyCAM Voices. I'm your host, Amanda Johnson. We begin with a look at urban agriculture. A plan is in the works to make fruits and vegetables more accessible to urban communities in Philadelphia. Our reporter Chantel Belafonte explains. It will mean growing a green thumb.
Soil Generation, a Black and Brown-led association of gardeners and farmers, is bringing back urban agriculture to heal urban communities that may not have easy access to fruits and vegetables. The increase of local farms will provide food security for low-income families who may not have a car to get to the grocery store. The first public meeting was held December 3rd, 2019 at the Free Public Library of Philadelphia.
Honestly, it's about the very first time that the city of Philadelphia is doing an urban agriculture plan for the city. And so this event is to kick off the Growing from the Root plan. So Growing from the Root is the name of the plan. And so we're asking residents tonight to go through a series of exercises to help kick us start this event.
Ashley Richards, Urban Agriculture Director at the Philadelphia Parks and Recreation Department, talks about the urban planning initiative that took place at the Free Public Library of Philadelphia.
This topic of urban agriculture should be permanent and not temporary use, and that people truly do care about it. And I think the overflow of residents that came out tonight pretty much shows that.
The meeting was filled with nonprofits, local farmers, and day-to-day residents interested in creating Philly's first ever urban agriculture plan for Black and brown communities. The goal of the plan is to define the resources, processes, and programs needed to sustain a rich future for urban farming.
Every area can be considered because we have to remember that urban agriculture is not just growing food into the ground that doesn't have a building on it. Urban agriculture can take place in a container, in a house, or in a senior home. It could also be vertical. It could take place at a school. So virtually anywhere we can grow food, and I think that's what we're trying to get at tonight.
Katrina Baxter, Soil Generation team member, shared the history of urban farming in Philadelphia and helped to organize attendees into small groups. The groups wrote agriculture plans and defined how they viewed local farming. The meeting defined garden types, locations of gardens and farms, and examined people living in poverty.
And then I also see people who are allies of folks from communities of color who are saying, like, yes, we think that it's important for folks to have food and have access to food. And folks are standing up and saying, yep, this is what we want. And so this is exciting. It's exciting because the city's going to know by the time we're finished that we have a real constituency here, and there's a lot of advocates throughout the city who really want us to grow food in our area and to grow food in a better way.
Philadelphians already buy fruits and vegetables from local farmers, and Baxter only expects to see an increase from local buyers. According to the USDA, urban agriculture can increase access to healthy foods, encourage community economic development, and strengthen community relationships. The experts also say climate change will make growing food more urgent.
Well, I think that the more climate disaster we experience, which is going to be ongoing, it's not going to get better, it's going to get worse, the more people will recognize the utility in growing food. I think right now it's a novelty. But for those as you can see on the map that we showed, that the cluster of gardens are actually in Black and brown and poor Black and brown neighborhoods. So most of the people who are actually growing food, in gardens look like me. And so we're doing it because we need to, right? Because food security is an issue in our communities.
Zakia Ali, community advocate and educator, is a vegan gardener who recalls when healthy food was easily accessible in Philadelphia.
History has shown that it works, that it's successful, that it's needed, that it is something that can't be removed. It can't be displaced. It can't be gentrified. It can't be done away with. And that with all this movement of buildings, where's the green open space? Where's the space for people to have trees? As a kid growing up in Philadelphia, it was real easy to walk around and eat fruit all summer because there were fruit trees everywhere. There were grapevines everywhere. There were fig trees. There were plums. There were peaches. There were pears. And now all those things have disappeared from our environment, which causes people to have health issues that some of them didn't have before because of accessibility. It's causing people to be hungry when they weren't hungry before because there was accessibility and they didn't have to ask or feel that they were trespassing or taking something from someone else. So the history has shown generation after generation that it works.
Adrian Galbraith Paul, farmer manager at the Heritage Farm, which is a part of Methodist Services, a nonprofit, has been around for 7 years. Galbraith Paul understands the needs of accessibility and providing fresh produce to local restaurants and residents in the Philadelphia area.
Yeah, I mean, it turns out that a carrot is not a carrot. I mean, there's vast differences in the quality of our produce. Like I'm talking like 100 times difference in the amount of different vitamins that produce has. So it's really hard to test for those things, but the best way is actually to taste them and to eat them. And the better something tastes, the more sweet it is, the more flavor it is. Generally, the healthier it is for you.
Urban agriculture and local farming has a rich history in Philadelphia, and the members of Soil Generation Coalition want to make sure more Philadelphians have access to fresh produce. Soil Generation is working to have a draft plan by the spring. I'm Chantal Belafonte, reporting for PhillyCAM Voices.
Hello, welcome back. We have Soil Generation here, and they're going to talk to us. What is Soil Generation all about? Sonia and Katrina, welcome. Talk to me.
Thank you for having us. Yeah. Excited to be here. Want to tell them a little bit about Soil Generation?
Soil Generation, we're a coalition of Black and brown farmers and farms in Philadelphia. We do a lot of things, but I think we're here in the capacity of policy work and working with the city and different groups within politics to push policy forward so that our folks can do the things that we want to do.
Wow, that is awesome. So how did it get started?
Well, we've been in formation for about 6 years. We're going into our 7th year. We were convened through the Public Interest Law Center. So about 7 years ago, we were Healthy Foods, Green Spaces at first, and we helped get lots of really good language into the land bank legislation. And we stayed coalesced and changed our name and became more grassroots in the last 6 years, and now we're Soil Generation.
So if someone said, okay, I've heard about Soil Generation, if I wanted to contact them, what would I expect to get from Soil Generation?
You would expect to come out to Soil Generation meetings to meet the rest of the farmers. Well, the thing is, it's a coalition of farmers and people who do food, gardeners and farmers and folks who do food work. So you come out to meetings and you meet other farmers and Black and brown folks who look like you and who are interested in the same things as you. And just come together, right? And then as we stay coalesced, maybe you show up to an action or come out, to advocate for some legislation for us along with us.
Okay. So what if there's that person out there says, I don't have a green thumb, I kill cactuses. What can they do to help out?
A lot of our farmers are also working with organizations and farms that are affiliated with our coalition as well, who are working towards building community sovereignty and food security for our neighborhoods. So there are lots of volunteer opportunities for folks who are newer, who want to learn from somebody who maybe has been doing this for a while. A lot of our affiliated farms have volunteer opportunities.
Yeah, as well. We actually just started a fellowship because we're creating a portal and an administrative collective. So we're going to be offering back-end support to small nonprofits and that are in the farming food business. So you can check us out on our website, which is soilgeneration.org, and apply to our fellowship that just started. We just went out and put the announcement out last week.
We also have some pretty great kind of social, political ed opportunities. We've done some workshops around cooperative work. There's lots of little things that they're not little, lots of big things that we're doing. And so, so on our platforms, we like to promote those opportunities too for folks to come learn with us.
Right, because we mostly fight for land access. So the biggest piece that we realize for gardeners, the biggest hurdle for them is access to land. So we do a lot of land workshops for the community, workshops on how to collectively hold land, workshops on how to navigate the system within the city to get access to land, to grow food on.
So I do see a lot of little corner spaces. Do you guys have anything to do with building those corner gardens?
Philly has a really rich history of urban farming and gardening that goes back, as far as the founding of Philly. Really, Philly is a farm city in its origins, and so we've really seen a lot of immigrant communities and Black folks from the Great Migration in the South continuing that practice, also as a way of feeding community in times when economic factors, but also history of racist policies creating barriers for community. Urban agriculture has been a practice for marginalized communities for decades, and so we're seeing that continue, and it's not just a way of surviving, it's a way of thriving. So it's been a space where folks have also been able to practice and preserve their cultures.
Yes.
So talk to us about the last meeting. What has happened?
So we're right now, Soil Generation is collaborating with the City of Philadelphia and also Interface Studios to create to do the Urban Ag Strategic Plan for the city. And so that's the work that we've been really, really focused on this year, which we're really excited about. So this year, we have one Urban Ag Strategic Plan already for the community, and we have another one that's coming up next month, right?
Yeah, in March we have so phase 2 for the public meetings. The last 2 weeks of March we'll have 2 meetings. And we're doing 2 because we want to be geographically conscious. We'll have one in North Philly, one in West Philly. Our public meeting number 1 showed us that there was a lot of representation from those areas specifically.
Yeah.
So we really wanted to give those areas an opportunity to have their own kind of space and conversation. So phase 2, meeting 2 is coming in March.
Yeah.
Meeting 1 was really amazing.
Yeah.
We had such a great turnout.
We had about 300 people showed up. Yeah, it was amazing, and it felt for us, this has sort of been 6 years in the making. Like now we have the opportunity to really interface with the city and find out, how they can support us better as growers.
All right.
And what was cool about meeting 1 was how affirming it was. I think as community folks, we've been trying to push our narrative, and it gets washed out by this image of urban farming being a hobby, and being able to have that many people in the room say, no, this is what we want, this is what it is, gave us the people power to say, no, this is real, this is our truth. And so it was the most affirming thing, I think, so far from the work.
Wow,
It's been
great information. How can people get in contact with you or reach you?
Well, they can check us out at soilgeneration.org or on our Instagram, which is still at Soil Generation, and we are also on Facebook.
All right. Well, Sonia and Katrina, thank you so much for your time. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. And the rally has been held last month in Philadelphia, urging the Trump administration to release relief funds for Puerto Rico. The island and the U.S. territory has been ravaged by deadly earthquakes and disaster. Philly Boricua has been speaking about the political situation in Puerto Rico and organizing local relief efforts.
Anyone seen Elvis?
The grassroots group, Philly Boricuas, started organizing community members in August to be more informed and active about the political situation in Puerto Rico. Last summer, the island erupted in mass mobilizations in response to a corruption scandal and insulting text message chats that implicated and eventually ousted former Governor Ricardo Rossello. More recently, they are organizing a relief effort to help people affected by the earthquakes that have plagued the island since January. Charito Morales, a local Puerto Rican activist and organizer with Philly Boricuas, leads a planning meeting with community members to discuss what they can do to continue to help Puerto Rico and prevent the mishandling of donations.
¿Cómo nos vamos a preparar? ¿Cómo vamos a prepararnos y cómo vamos a hacer que estos ayudas lleguen a Puerto Rico y que no nos pase como nos pasó anteriormente, que no llegaron a la población que nosotros queríamos que llegaran, que a las personas necesitadas, y no se pierdan, o como estamos en tiempos de política, que no vayan a a jugar políticas con el sufrimiento ajeno?
Philly Boricuas participated in a national day of action where protests were held at HUD offices all over the U.S. to demand the federal agency release $18.5 billion in aid meant for Hurricane Maria recovery efforts in Puerto Rico.
We're here today because we want to demand that HUD release the remaining funds, disaster aid funds, that have been withheld illegally after being approved by Congress. So far they've approved $8 billion, but there's still another $10 billion that needs to be approved, and it's imperative that that money get dispersed now, because Puerto Rico is going through yet another crisis. After Hurricane Maria, people are still suffering, and now people are suffering even more with the earthquake, and the infrastructure of the island is crumbling, and we need that money to help rebuild the island.
Since Puerto Rico is a U.S. territory, Puerto Ricans are U.S. citizens and they are eligible to receive disaster relief and assistance from the federal government.
And to me, the question is not really about whether we're citizens of this country. It's do the right thing. Do what's right for people in this country, whether they're immigrants, whether they're as you say, they're non-citizens. Even if they're citizens, you have to do the right thing in helping people out. You have to develop a plan. And the leadership in HUD, as well as the leadership in the White House, is politicizing this whole situation, which is the wrong thing to do.
Philly Boricua members also rallied in North Philadelphia after news broke that the Puerto Rico government had dozens of warehouses with emergency supplies, which they failed to distribute to thousands of people living in outdoor camps due to the earthquakes and also to those affected by Hurricane Maria.
La razón más importante,
Y ese es el enfoque.
el enfoque, que es el juicio de Puerto Rico. Nosotros le estamos haciendo el juicio del pueblo hacia el gobierno. El juicio que nosotros le estamos haciendo al gobierno de Puerto Rico son por los 12 vagones perdidos, las paletas de aguas abandonadas en Ceiba y Dorado, los 13 almacenes suministros que estaban repletos de suministros. Queremos dejarles saber que por esa razón murieron 4.645 y muchísimas personas más. ¿Por qué hacer este daño a nosotros los puertorriqueños con tanto sacrificio, tanta persona que lo necesitaba, y dejar que las personas murieran de desnutrición porque necesitaban cáteres, necesitaban frisa, necesitaban pamper de adultos, los niños, los bebés, con los rash que tenían? Yo fui enfermera, yo soy enfermera, yo trabajé en Puerto Rico y yo puedo decir que no tuvimos mucho acceso a muchas cosas rápidamente porque nos las estaban deteniendo.
Grassroots groups such as Philly Boricuas continue to bring awareness to the issues regarding Puerto Rico and organize people in action. They have so far sent thousands of pounds of supplies to Puerto Rico and plan to continue educating people and advocating for decolonization of the island.
Thousands took to the streets of Philadelphia for the Women's March last month. As reporter Monica Robinson explains, what organizers have an important message for women.
Snowy, frigid weather could not keep thousands of people away from the 4th Annual Women's March in Philadelphia. They marched from Logan Circle to the steps of the Art Museum. This year's theme, the Year of the Woman.
The purpose of the march is to bring women and our allies together for women's rights. And that ranges anywhere from equal pay to fighting against sexual harassment to fighting for minority communities and providing a platform for them to have a voice today.
Organizers say this march was created in protest to the election in 2016, and now they have their eyes on this year's coming election.
With the 2020 election looming, it's kind of a culmination of everything we've been working towards. And part of what we're hoping that our speakers will be talking about today is the importance of getting out the vote. This year, more than ever, we need to take back our agency in our country.
I need people to come out to vote, to learn how to vote. It means that we're tired of people deciding who we are and what we're going to do and whether or not we sit at a table.
Personally, I want everyone to register to vote or find 2 people that are not registered to vote, get their butts registered, and then I would love if any women feel so inclined to run for office that they should look within our organization. We will help connect them to someone who can help them run.
Philadelphia Mayor Jim Kenney was there to support women's rights.
It seems fitting that 2020 also marks the 100th anniversary of the 19th Amendment, when women earned the right to vote. Women marched, they got arrested, they demonstrated, they agitated, and they demanded to be recognized at the ballot box.
Chuck Tryon and Andrea Biondi from Raleigh, North Carolina were in town visiting family. They felt it was important to come out and support the march.
It's solidarity with other people. When we've gone to marches, especially the ones in Raleigh, we can network with other people who are doing positive things, standing up to racism, homophobia, sexism, all the things that are going on right now that need to be fixed.
It's how we survived after the last election where we have this president. I mean, we were really upset and just in a panic mode, and having that solidarity in DC, that first march, really just sort of regrouped.
Mothers brought their daughters to share a valuable life lesson.
I marched for all of our daughters to make sure that 20 years from now they don't have to march anymore. To show them that they need to be a voice, they need to show up.
Just because we think we won the right to vote 100 years ago, there's still so many women's issues that are still out there. Equal pay,
the Equal Rights Amendment.
At the end of the march today, all 7 organizers will actually be taking the stage, and each of us will be giving a call to action so that when people do leave the march today, they will be able to choose the action or actions that they'd like to take. Personally speaking, I would like people to support the organization WAR, W-O-A-R. It's the only rape crisis center in the city of Philadelphia. And if you go to war.org, they have a website with an advocacy tab and a donate tab. And that's my call to action for women today.
Reporting for PhillyCAM Voices, I'm Monica Robinson.
Joining me now is Tyrone and Natalia with WAR, Women Organized Against Rape. Welcome.
Thank you, thank you.
So let's start off with asking, what is WAR and its purpose?
So WAR is Philadelphia's only rape crisis center. We've been around since 1971, so that's about 40 plus years. All our resources are free. Just to give you a list of services, we have an education department that works with schools as young as kindergarten on up to college, and we work with professionals as well. We have an outreach department, which is what I do. I spend a lot of time in various communities working with different organizations, telling them about WAR services, and try to create collaborations with these same organizations. We have a counseling department that does very good work working with survivors of sexual trauma.
And so that department, all of our counseling services are free.
Yep.
And we also don't take insurance. So you don't have to have any sort of insurance. There's no barrier in the way. We try to make it as accessible as possible to folks.
Yes.
Okay. Now, for many years, WAR has been focused on women who have been victim of rape. But now you guys are changing things up a little bit. Can you explain?
So WAR, in reality, we've always seen males. We didn't get a cesspool of males because of the name. So we went through a name change. So it's no longer WAR, Women Organized Against Rape. It's actually called WAR, Philadelphia Center Against Sexual Violence, because we realized the name change is more inclusive. We forget about, when we think of the Me Too movement, we think about women only, but there's a population of males who have been impacted by sexual assault. And so we needed to create a space and a name that made them feel welcome.
Okay. When was it founded?
WAR was when would the name change, or when was WAR founded?
WAR founded.
I don't know the date, but the year was 1971.
Right, and we were incorporated in 1973.
Yeah. Wow, that's awesome. So talk about your role with WAR.
Yeah, so my role is primarily in the Latinx community. And so I work primarily with women who are parents and young mothers as well. And I do kind of like an art therapy program at Fleischer Arts, and that's a really great program. But we also have been working a lot lately with foster parents and having different classes with them as well. A lot of foster parents that work with Spanish children don't have the same access to the same programs and services that parents who work with English-speaking children. And so we try to kind of fill in that gap with different programs.
Wow, that is amazing. Now, there's probably a male out there talking about, wow, this is good. This is something that that person might want to be a part of. So they might be asking, is this a group session? Is it individual sessions? Is it women, men and women together? What's the dynamic of your meetings?
So we don't have any male groups together because we're still building our male base of clients. But we do have walk-ins. So we do have groups that support where you'll be in a group setting if you walk in with male and females, ran by therapists, and you can talk about how your trauma has impacted you. So there is that kind of interaction.
So if someone decides to come and do a walk-in, what should they expect? Is there a sign-in sheet? Are they asked to immediately get up, give their name? Give them just a little insight of what they should expect if they decide to walk in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so we have two different things. So we have our 24-hour hotline that folks can call into at any time. And that one, when you call the hotline, you can set up an intake appointment.
Awesome.
And so the intake appointment is a little bit more thorough. You come in, you fill out your information, your form. It's a few different things. And then if you want that same day, you can also have an intake with one of our counselors.
Okay. How can people get in contact? Real quick before we go.
The number to WAR is 215-985-3333.
And that's our 24-hour hotline.
Awesome. 24 hours. Thank you so much for your time. We'll be right back. That's all we have for this episode of PhillyCAM Voices. Thank you for joining us. You can watch us on YouTube and Roku and follow us on Facebook and Instagram. But if you're interested in getting involved, you can email us at news@phillycam.org to be a part of our team or just to pitch a story. Thank you and have a good night.